And welcome everybody to the Week 17 edition of Yard Prep here on 5 Reasons Sports. I am Louis Sung, and I am joined by Alfredo Arteaga, Kai, Juan, Michael, and of course Ethan Skolnick will be here shortly. He had to pop back out to work on his headphones, but either way, so it's a pleasure to have you all for the final regular season show. And this show, by the way, is brought to you by prizepicks.com, which is a revolutionary new way to play fantasy football. So if you're someone like me who's not really good at the whole building teams and projecting everybody's point values and all that stuff to get into the championship, well, this is a good way to get your feet wet. You can go to prizepicks.com and choose 2, 3, or 4 of your favorite fantasy football type of players and choose the over or under on how many fantasy points they are going to score. If you end up winning, well, you could win big. They will match up to $100 on your deposit if you use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. You spell out the word 5, and they will match up to $100 on your deposit. Again, that's prizepicks.com. Get started today and see if you can come up the big winner. Speaking of big winners, the Miami Dolphins have to come up big today. They have 4 different ways to get into the playoffs, but it seems to me that the best way that they're going to get in is by beating Buffalo today. Apparently, Vegas now actually has them as is a 3 or 4 point favorites. The line has flipped absolutely completely, which seems to indicate that the Buffalo Bills may be resting their starters. Vegas always seems to know things that nobody else knows way before everybody else. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Ethan, since he's here and he's the head honcho of 5 Reasons Sports, is today probably the biggest game of the Miami Dolphins' recent history? And will this game be a catalyst for the future, or is this just another game that Miami has to win?
Well, I think it flips a little bit, Louis, depending on whether the Bills play their starters, right? Like, because I feel like if they sit guys or they don't play them for very long and the Dolphins lose this game, then I think it does cast a cloud over what I think is already a successful season. If the Bills play everybody today and the Dolphins lose, I think you're like, okay, you went up to Buffalo against a really, really good team. You lost the game. You hope to get some help somewhere else. But I think that clouds it a little bit. I'll say in terms of big games, I mean, 2016, obviously, in Buffalo. I mean, the last one that I remember them actually winning that I was at was 2008 against the Jets in the Meadowlands and beating Pennington, beating Favre, as I was saying before we came on, one of the best locker rooms I've ever been in. Joey Porter and everybody else. I mean, it was just, they were so excited to win that thing. But yeah, there haven't been a lot of them. I think, Louis, like I said, I think this is a success. I know people hate when I say this. Successful season either way. I mean, you get to this point, you have a chance to get to the playoffs in what is the second year of a rebuild with like the worst skill position players active right now. Even though DVP is active today in the entire league, it's a successful season. But yeah, if the Bills rest guys today and you still lay an egg, then we're going to hear this same old Dolphins refrain after this game one way or the other.
Oh, I don't doubt it for a second. But it should say something that if Vegas is saying that suddenly the Dolphins went from underdogs to 4 point favorites on the road on a cold day in Buffalo, where the Bills are playing for the number 2 seed, I can't imagine that they're going to be playing their starters much, if at all. So I speculated that if they do decide to sit their starters, it's because they had already built up enough of a lead where they feel comfortable doing so. But maybe they really don't care. Either that, or maybe they just think that Buffalo's backups are enough to beat Miami starters. Alfredo, what do you think?
No, I don't. If they think that their backups are good enough to beat Miami starters, then they're on drugs. Okay, so I think it's entirely important to win this game. I don't think it's a successful season if they don't make the playoffs. I think it's a huge disappointment. It reminds me of 2002. I believe it was 2002 when they lost to New England. They had an 11-point lead with 4 minutes left. They had the number 2 running game and the number 2 defense in the NFL that year. This year, they have a number 1 defense. You don't take that for granted. You take your chances. You want that in the playoffs because weird things happen in the NFL all the time. And when you have an elite unit like the Dolphins do, the Dolphins have an elite defense, you want to take your chances. Maybe you get the right draw. Maybe you make the AFC Championship game, and that's valuable experience for all the young players. So I believe that today is actually really important. I think it's you have to get in today. If they don't get in, I think that puts a cloud over the rest of the season. I mean, the rest of the offseason until next year.
But do you think that if they lose but they still get in, does that still have a cloud?
If they lose to backups today and they get in, absolutely. You can't go into the playoffs with that, with that lack of confidence. Like, hey, we went up to Buffalo and lost a bunch of backups. Now they lose and they play tough. Like, they can't lose by 2 or 3 touchdowns to a completely healthy Buffalo Bills team. If the Buffalo Bills are completely healthy and going all 60 minutes, you got to lose a close game if you're going to make the playoffs. You have to go in with some type of confidence and feeling like you belong.
All right. And how about you, Kai? What are your thoughts on this game going forward?
I think that it's changed a lot from what we thought the beginning of the season was going to be. You know, at the beginning of the season, we thought that this team wasn't going to be in this position. So to be able to be in this position right now, I think I'd have to agree with Alfredo, where if you lose today as to backups, if you lose to the starters, if they play, which, you know, it looks like who knows what's going to happen. Obviously, we always say Vegas knows more than, or they always know something. You can't lose by multiple scores, like Alfredo said. You can't lose to the backups. If you lose to the backups and you get in, it's still, we're going to be happy at the end of the day. We're in the playoffs, but then you're looking at a 6 or 7 seed, which means you're probably playing, or not probably, you're playing the Steelers or the Bills. Steelers probably a better matchup if it comes to that case. But, you know, you'd want to ideally win and get in and make it so that not only are you're winning an important game, which is also good for your the young players on the team, but then you're going into the next week knowing like, okay, we're either playing the Titans or the Colts, and whichever one that you play, you're going to be able to be prepared for and have that really important game, and not like you're going to play. The Bills are a tough team, so if you end up falling, let's say the Bills finish second and you end up falling to 7 and you end up having to play them, you know, if you get stomped in Buffalo like that from the starters, it's going to be horrible. If you at least get a nice, easier wild card game, it would probably be a little more beneficial. But regardless, any playoff experience is good for the young ones.
Louis, how have we gone 7 minutes into this? We haven't mentioned that 3-letter word yet.
Because we're trying very hard to not talk about it right off the bat. We want to save it for later. Save it for later. We hold it in. Save the best.
Nobody has said it. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
All right. So we'll go ahead and keep going. Manny, pull that back up again. So these are the active. This is the inactive list for the Miami Dolphins. So obviously Jakeem Grant, he is not going to be playing. So we kind of expected that. Kamu Grugier-Hill was downgraded to out with an illness, which is not COVID, by the way. So for anybody worried about that, no, it wasn't COVID, so he's fine. Ryan Fitzpatrick, obviously, he's on the COVID list. We heard that earlier this week. So that's the biggest thing, is that there is no safety net. No Jake Rudock. So I guess the assumption is that there you go. You just made me say the word. Tua is going to be playing the entire game. He's going to be. We made it to 8 minutes. Good for us. So Tua's going to have to play this whole game. DeAndre Washington is out. Adam Penke's out. No Kirk Merritt. So that means that Devontae Parker is active, which is a big thing for the Dolphins. Finally, I had suspected that he was going to be playing this week. And no Benito Jones. So none of that is really a surprise, aside from maybe Kirk Merritt, because they had brought him up just in case. So now here we go. This is the big question for the game. Does Tua have to play the best game of his short career if Miami wants to win today?
No.
I don't think so. No, I mean, they're looking at probably starters for the backups for the Bills, right? Which means that your defense, if Josh Allen doesn't play the full game, even if Josh Allen only plays the first half, the defense should be able to do enough to hold back the Bills' offense. And defensively for the Bills, I saw Tre'Davious White is out. I don't know if Tre'Davious White was already hurt or they're just resting him. I think they're just resting him, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a shot to their secondary because, I mean, Tre'Davious White is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. I don't think that Tua has to play the best game of his career, but he has to play better than he did last week. But, I mean, the best game of his career so far for the Dolphins is maybe it's between the Chiefs game and the Cardinals game. Either one of those performances absolutely gets us the win, but I don't think we need that from him. I think we need established run, work on our defense. That's more important.
If they get Tua Tagovailoa from the Cards game or the Chiefs game throughout the playoffs, they'll be playing Kansas City in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you ask the Twitter GMs, I think they'll definitely tell you that we need a Hall of Fame performance from Tua this week. I just think there's a lot of different moving pieces, right? Like, for instance, Pittsburgh, I think, already announced that Ben is not going to play. So what does Buffalo really have to really play for? They might just go a couple drives, kind of see how we're going to play them out. Maybe if we have to play them in the playoffs, and just kind of go based off of that. But I don't think we're going to see too much of the starters. But win or lose, I think we got to see a good game from Tua because just to build some confidence, man. Like, I feel like the last couple games, he hasn't had his full weapons, obviously, and he still doesn't. But I mean, DVP is going to be back, so I think that'll help out eventually. And it's just kind of seeing him kind of get the ball rolling, kind of get him comfortable and just confident.
All right, but a big part of that, I think, is not just Tua's confidence, and it's also what he's being allowed to do. Now, both Juan and Alfredo have broken this down. There are essentially two playbooks happening. The Ryan Fitzpatrick playbook, where there's verticals and there's opportunities to make big plays, and then there's the Tua one, where there's a lot of read pass option and play action, which slows everything down, and there's barely any time to actually find a decent target. And even when there is one, it's barely even open. So Gailey, I feel like this game is going to be more of an indication on Gailey than it is going to be on Tua, especially if it's the same nonsense we've seen before. How much of this is Tua just not being ready for the what's being asked of him, and how much of this is him being handcuffed by what he's being coached on?
I think he was overcompensating, I believe, last week for what he's being told, because you could almost see it happening. He's playing conservatively because he's being asked to be conservative and take care of the football and be a ball control offense. Don't turn it over. Don't screw it up for the defense. And I believe Tua, and I don't know what happened to him last week against the Raiders, but he just wasn't taking any chances, and he just played way too conservatively last week. But yeah, the whole playbook was really available to him. It was a little bit more desperate when Fitzpatrick came in against the Raiders than it was with Tua. With Tua, it was a little bit more of a conservative game plan, but there were opportunities. He just didn't take them.
You know what I find interesting about this, too? A couple of factors here. You mentioned Gailey, Louis. I think that plays into this a lot. First, we don't know if this is his last game as offensive coordinator. They really haven't answered that question.
And we don't know, but we can take a wild guess.
We can take a guess that it's a very long career for this guy, and he was the head coach in Buffalo, okay? And so I just wonder if today is the day that he decides to, quote-unquote, take the handcuffs off a little bit and show out, okay? Because if this is his last – I know Chan a little bit. He's very prideful, okay? And it's one of the reasons he got back in the business. He has stayed in the business as long as he has. And I just wonder if this is the day that, look, he's his last game. It's against his old team. It's up in Buffalo. He knows those conditions really, really well. Does he let Tua play? Because I think, Alfredo – I watched what both you and Juan did, have been doing on Tua. And to me, he's got.
We lost Ethan's microphone, unfortunately.
Right when it was starting.
No. I got to call. But watching the work that Juan and Alfredo have done on this and reading House and some of the others, it just seems to me, again, like he's got Tua thinking too much. Like that's he's into his head right now where Tua doesn't, should I not? And I don't worry about Tua from a resilience perspective. I mean, he's one of the most, he's back from this damn hip injury, okay? He's been a resilient guy. But it's just, you start thinking, I'm seeing it with the Heat with Tyler Hero early this season. It's just like you start adding responsibilities and you don't really know where to go. I think today is maybe the day where he taps Tua on the shoulder and says, just go. Be you, okay? We got nothing to lose. We're in this position. Maybe the last game of his own career. He's in Buffalo. I think we're going to see a more aggressive Chan Gailey today. I would be surprised. And I think the Fitzpatrick situation, as much as I hope Ryan's fine, is a blessing in disguise. I think it's a total blessing in disguise. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder today. Nobody's coming in for him. They're not bringing in. I don't even remember the name of the damn backup quarterback. They're not bringing in anybody.
Rudock is inactive, so
but they brought in Rudock to be the backup, and then they sat him.
So the point is, it could be Lindbaum.
We're going
okay. There's no. So it's just
Malcolm Perry.
It's just go. It's just go. I think that's actually a good thing for Tua today.
Yeah,
Reed Sinnett, by the way, is the name of the backup quarterback.
Yeah, Reed Sinnett.
One thing to touch on really quick.
It's gonna force him to respond. We're gonna have to see him for 60 minutes. We're not gonna go to Reed Sinnett. And it's just ultimately gonna be more on Gailey to actually, kind of like we've been saying, just kind of let it go. There's no better opportunity like today, and also it's kind of like a fizzle out, like an ideally thing, like what do we want to do, right? Because if we want to do RPOs are not something that's designed to do big 30-40 yard gains where it's long throws. It's really not, like,
unless you've got Alabama receivers.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. If you watch Alabama receivers, they'll break that tackle. They'll break that first tackle and be able to get that 40-yard gain. We just don't have that right now.
it's weird for me to think that they're going to let him loose. And I understand that today's a must win, right? So if you're ever going to do that, it's today. But I still find it hard to believe that they're just going to let him cut loose when they still have all that confidence in their defense. Buffalo won't be with all of their starters probably the whole game, if at all, at any point in the game. So I would love to see it. And it's just, I feel like they've been preaching to him for so long. Be careful with the ball. Don't throw interceptions, take the easy throws, that they're just going to be like in week 17. All right, forget all of that. Throw it out the window. Now do something else. I feel like I don't know. That would just confuse him more. Maybe. I don't know. It's just, I think they've just been preaching the wrong stuff the whole time. But Kai, I know you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to add just to go all the way back for the Tre'Davious White, they are resting him. And one thing to note as well is that Cole Beasley is out. And it's something that we mentioned midweek. And he torched us along with John Brown and Stephon Diggs in the first game. So that's another weapon that is out for the Bills offensively.
And they're missing their starting tight end too, I think.
Yeah, he's on COVID. Tyler Croft.
So everything seems to be in place for the Dolphins to act. Well, it's not. I can't say it's an upset anymore.
And let me say another thing on Tua. I was in the WhatsApp chat with, and it was interesting during the week when we did the show. Kai said that we should charge for people to read our WhatsApp.
Well, that was my idea.
That was your idea. Okay,
my monthly subscription.
Well, you would have liked it today because me and CK were visibly annoyed if you read what we were writing, because Simon does this thing on Sundays where he gives us all what everybody's writing. He starts giving us links, and we start reading the links. To see what everybody's saying on a Sunday, on a football Sunday, right? So we started reading this thing from MMQB, and. Oh boy, I think you know the story, right? Okay, all right. So you know the story. The story is basically, okay, the Dolphins, they'd be idiots if they were just going to pass on a quarterback at number 3 next year. Okay, and he starts saying, look, he's played all right, but this and but that, and look at what happened in the Raider game. I find it extremely interesting how nobody ever mentions the 3 garbage games that Justin Herbert had. Mm-hmm. But everybody conveniently forgets. And by the way, the 3 garbage games, Denver, Miami, New England. Okay. All right. But everybody seems to forget all the good games that Tua had. The Cardinals game, the Chiefs game, the Bengals game. The Bengals game, he could have had 400 yards because he had about 85 in drops, and he threw for 296.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and he could have had 2 more touchdowns. So that would have been an epic game. And what about the efficient games against San Diego, New England? No. Tua is just what he did last week. And think about it. His horrific game is a game where he was 17 of 22. He just didn't push the ball down the field, and he didn't turn it over. And he was down 3 points in the fourth quarter. That's his horrific game.
That's all the rookie quarterbacks, because Hurts has one good game, and immediately everyone's like, maybe Hurts is better than Tua too. Yeah. It's just
not only that.
Center of attention. It's just how it
goes. Last week on the 3IPC account, you could see it in real time. One guy says, you gotta think, Jalen Hurts has played better than Tua. Then the fourth quarter started, and he had 4 turnovers in 6 minutes. And I said, "Okay, did you watch the last 6 minutes of Jalen Hurts?" So I don't know. I get visibly annoyed by the national media when it comes to Miami sports
because Alfredo, they do not judge based on potential. They do not judge based on film. They do not judge based on entire body of work. They judge on how exciting are you to watch. Yeah. Justin Herbert's fun. He throws it across the yard. He throws 80 yards down the field for touchdowns to Keenan Allen. And Jalen Hurts can run. He runs the whole lot. Doesn't matter. How much fun was it to watch that?
Sorry, Manny. Hurts isn't better than Tua. He's not.
Go away, Manny. Go away, Manny.
Remember that's the stuff that they're saying right now about Jalen Hurts and the excitement, and the stuff that they're saying about Justin Herbert was the same things that they were saying about them.
Tua plays
in terms of you can't draft them. No, but I'm talking about this time last year. This time last year, it was, if the Dolphins draft Justin Herbert over Tua, they're idiots. Fire the entire staff. Everything they were doing. Jalen Hurts, he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. But then now that you see a couple exciting games, as you mentioned, it happens. And as Alfredo said, it's the national media around Miami sports. It doesn't matter what sport team it is. They just hate Miami. And it's always going to be that way.
That's because it's
That's why we
78. That's because
said
it's 78 here today, guys.
Yeah.
They're all angry December, so it's like, oh well, I'm gonna wake up cold and I'm gonna hate on Miami.
Look, the narrative after this game, if we lose and Tua doesn't have a great game, it's going to be all Tua's fault, regardless of if it has nothing to do with him. That's just how it's going to go.
Do you think any of the national guys, Michael, can name anybody at the Dolphins skill positions right now? Do you think they maybe Devontae?
They only know 19,
Parker and Gesicki,
19 and Devontae
Parker and
Parker.
Gesicki,
Gesicki.
and maybe Gaskin because of fantasy football. So fantasy football is what gets offensive players' names out there.
Yes.
But outside of those
it's
two,
the fun stuff.
Yeah, outside of those two, nobody can name them, right? Nobody knows last week what happened after Jakeem Grant went out.
That's my cue to go. That's my cue to go. That's my cue to go. You guys take the rest of the show. I'll untangle these things. I'm going to go promote you guys. You guys have done great work the whole season. It's been great putting this group together, or you guys putting this group together. So follow everybody here. Also, obviously,
I love those headphones. Please buy those headphones. Please buy those.
Those headphones are in my daughter's room, so I'll go get
those.
those.
Oh my gosh!
All right.
No.
Dolphins by 6 today.
If the Dolphins make the playoffs,
thank you for the official pick. I'll keep that in mind.
All right. See you guys.
So that was Ethan Skolnick, HT441. Why you got to chase him off like that,
Okay.
man? You know that without Ethan, there is no 5 Reasons show, right? Just throw that out there.
I'm going to say this about today's game plan. If Josh Allen does start and plans on being there, and I'm Brian Flores, I blitz the hell out of him. I send everybody right away to make them pull him out because they're like, what if he lands weird on his ankle? I'm not saying I want to injure Josh Allen. That's not the goal, but I want them to work. No,
if they don't
hit anybody else, let me ask you guys, and I guess we could start with Kai and go all the way around back to Lewis. Was anybody else as annoyed as I was? I've been annoyed a lot lately this week, okay? But was anybody else as annoyed as I was at the behavior of Sean McDermott, really? Playing all these little mind games, starting on Monday. Oh, I don't know. I might sit, guys. I might not. I don't know. There's different ways to approach it. Then he does another press conference, and he says, it goes both ways because we could use a 2 seed, but, health is also important. Is anybody else as annoyed as I was at all the little games that they played all week? I guess we can start with Kai.
It annoys me because it's that same old thing that you see from team. I mean, the Bills now have 2 years, but last year in the playoffs wasn't great. But it's the same thing that you see when a team gets good and then they start to act very, would you say, like pompous, and it starts from the top down. And I mean, in terms of him saying the whole 2 seed thing, if things don't go the right way and they land the 2 seed and the Ravens are in the 7 seed, I'm pretty sure the Bills and Steelers don't want to see the Ravens in the playoffs, especially in the first round. So, I mean, it was just annoying because, again, it's that same old thing of, and I guess you could say it for us Dolphins fans because in 2016 we were insufferable, like we were. This year when we've been having success, we've been insufferable. Like it is.
Man, who was our head coach in 2016?
He likes to talk.
I don't have any tacos, so don't mention his name.
But it's understandable. You get a little insufferable, but it from the top down sort of thing, not just the fan side of things. It was
annoying. Have tacos. It's not okay to do that yet.
It was annoying because it's just, again, show it in the playoffs because the regular season only means so much. Yeah. Show it in the playoffs.
What annoys me about it is, so to me, mind games have obviously always been a thing in just life. It's been a thing in the NFL for a while. I think the people that really solidified mind games in the NFL, or the person, is Bill Belichick, right? Like Bill Belichick is the mind games head coach, right? We saw that when we played them, and their injury report was a bunch of limited participants with no details, right? And then just a bunch of questionables. And then Flores kind of did that too. So what annoys me about it is it feels like McDermott wants to join that club, right? Like he wants to join in on I'm a smart head coach too. People should start talking about me, but he just keeps harking on it. Whereas if this was Flores, he would be like, we'll figure it out on Sunday. And that's it. Like a one-liner, let's get over it, ask me other questions. But McDermott's like, guys, I'm trying to outsmart them. Keep showing me on camera. It's like, dude, get out of here. You're in Buffalo. At the end of the day, you don't matter. It's Buffalo. I hate Buffalo. I've been there on vacation. I don't even know why I did it for Niagara Falls.
Why would you go to I guess.
It's a garbage place. I hate it. I don't even care if there's anybody from Buffalo watching this. It sucks. McDermott, you suck. Get out of here. I'm done with them.
Especially when Mike Tomlin and Bruce Arians, 2 old heads, right, come out on Monday, and Bruce Arians says, we're playing everybody. We're playing like if it's a playoff game. So, we're going to go out to win. And then Mike Tomlin says, no, we're sitting Ben, but we might play all the starters on defense, which is kind of weird, right? So all those guys can get hurt, but Ben can't.
They're already missing.
Well, he knows that Ben's arm is like
a noodle.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it interesting because we kind of do the same thing. I mean, Devontae Parker. I mean, we brought up 2 receivers from the practice squad, and I'm not gonna lie. I thought at that point I was like, oh well, Devontae's done. I'm like, the tea leaves are reading. Devontae's not gonna play today, and then all of a sudden Devontae's active. So I mean, it goes both ways, right? I mean, it's just part of the game, and I think it is kind of like how Mike's saying. I mean, McDermott's just trying to kind of join the upper echelons and just be a top head coach and be known.
Yeah. Speaking of wide receivers who are done, we got to talk about this real quick. Preston Williams. He apparently had foot surgery. Did anybody know that? We didn't know that until his agent came out and said,
his training coach.
He's alive?
Yeah,
right.
Alfredo, didn't you guys have a theory that he was dead?
And then the video got deleted. The video got deleted. The only reason
it was footwork something, right?
Yeah, you can still watch it on Josh House's quote of the video. You just can't click on the original tweet. Then it'll show it deleted. But you can still watch the video from House's account. So that's the funny thing. But it's crazy to me that all this time we hear absolutely nothing on Williams. And then all of a sudden, it's his trainer that comes out and says, hey, look, Preston's still working hard and trying to get back. We didn't even know he was hurt still.
Our worst enemy this year has been Preston's trainer and Tua's agent,
right?
For sure.
Lee Steinberg.
Social media. We have gotten more news about the Dolphins from social media than we have about the Dolphins themselves. So
it's also
good.
But it's also the this COVID year because then you would have been able to see Preston Williams in the facility, because you would have gone inside the facility and sat inside the press room, and then when you sit in the press room, you walk by the field, so then you get to look at the field, you get to count everybody. Now it's whoever comes out for warm-ups outside. There could be guys inside the bubble. Like it's happened already a couple of times where a beat guy says, "Oh, I don't see this guy in practice," and then you look at the injury report and it says, "Oh, he practiced today." So it was just that he was inside the bubble or he was in the training room.
Was that 2 in sleeves? 2 is cold.
I will ask you this, Alfredo, because I know that some people were talking about it from the NBA side, right? When the NBA shut down and then they went into the bubble and access was very limited, right, because of COVID, and NFL's doing the same thing. I know there were some people that were speculating that the NBA would want to stick with that because of all the stuff that can come out of being in the locker room and whatnot. Same as with the NFL. Do you think this is something that they're going to want to keep moving forward, or once we're good on COVID, they're just going to flip it back and let people back in?
Yes.
I hope not, but knowing the NFL, this is something that they're going to saddle the media with, so gone is going to be a lot of the good access that we used to have, walking the field, me and my buddy Andrew Van Ginkel, we're not going to be able to talk anymore. So, it's just, it's going to be different. I think that the NFL is, unfortunately, that's the way, like my partner on the podcast, Chris Kaufman, says, these guys think that they're guarding the nuclear codes. You know what I mean? So they're going to say, you know what, this is the way forward. The way forward is just to keep the media in the dark 24/7.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible that this is probably here to stay.
And it just sucks because you get such good access to the players, right? Like I've never been in the locker room. I would die to be in one, but I've never been in one. But I've seen a bunch of interviews come out of there where you find out all this interesting stuff, even about the players off the field. And I think it's interesting because on the I Am Athlete podcast, Brandon Marshall talks about it, where there's that friction between the media and players. But then as you get older, you realize we're all just doing our jobs, right? Like the media's job is to ask us questions and try to find out stuff. Our job is to go play out there on the field. It's not about us personally. It's just, I don't know. I hope it doesn't go away because I would love to do it at some point, but that's rough.
Yeah, which is funny because last year in preseason, I mistook Patrick Laird for a backup kicker because I walked right past him and I was like, why is everybody really interested in talking to this guy? Like, he's completely non-interesting. And I look at him like, and I remember I looked at Dave Hyde and I go, that's Patrick Laird, isn't it? And Dave Hyde goes, yeah, that's Patrick Laird.
That's my guy, Patrick Laird. I want to see him get the football. But anyway, that's besides the point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. We're going to go ahead and make our picks for the game. I'm going to go ahead and start with Juan. You go first. What do you think the Dolphins have to do to win this game more than anything, and what do you have for the score? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the biggest key for the game is definitely going to be the running game. I just saw Tua behind Alfredo, and he looks like he's just like a frozen popsicle out there. He has full sleeves. He has the warmer with it like tucked in, and so I think we're definitely going to be feeding
He's a tropical boy, man. He don't want this cold weather.
That's what I'm saying. But hey, I learned this week, thanks to Alfredo, that it does snow in Alabama. Had no clue where Alabama was on a map, so I had to look it up. But yeah, I think we're
what?
I think we're definitely gonna be feeding Ahmed a lot. I think we're gonna be feeding Gaskin a lot. And I think if we do get a lot more than 150 yards rushing, I think we'll win with a total score of 23-17.
23-17 for Juan. I know that Ethan said that he had the Dolphins winning by 6, so that's a good thing. Huzzah. Kai, go ahead. What's your key for the game, and what's the score?
I want to agree, feed the hot hand in the running game, whether this week it's Savon Ahmed or it's Myles Gaskin or Patrick Laird. You know,
Matt
who knows?
Breida. Why does no one talk about Matt Breida? I think the coaches
or
forget
Matt
we have
Breida.
him
Because Matt Breida is a Reggie Bush, and they don't like Reggie Bush.
There you go. Whether it's whatever it is, feed the hot hand running the football, just get into the playoffs. I think they win 28-20.
28-20, and running game for Kai. Alfredo, what's your key for the game, and what's the score?
Yeah, I think ball control is important, but I think Tua getting to the second level, you know, you got to start looking at some of the stuff that they're giving you in the game plan, because it works. It's there for you. You just got to trust it. You got to trust your teammates. It's there for you. Take a few chances. You can afford to. You have a good enough defense. Now, it's a good thing that he's wearing the sleeves and he's wearing the hand warmers and all that thing, because I said in the podcast that I hoped he wasn't going to be one of these idiots that goes out there with no sleeves and then you freeze your ass off and then you play terrible because you're miserable. So good thing that he's bundled up. So he has no excuses as far as the weather. But yeah, I think that the Dolphins win today. I think they win comfortably. I'm talking about maybe 27-13, something like that. 2 touchdowns. So I think they win comfortably, but I think it won't matter because I think the Cleveland Browns will complete their collapse and lose.
100% agree.
And miss the playoffs.
You know,
100% agree.
I'm just gonna.
So I think sometime in the fourth quarter we're going to look at the scoreboard. We're going to say, okay, this game is in doubt. We got to put it away. We're only up a touchdown, and then you're going to look at the score and you're going to see that Pittsburgh is beating Cleveland. You're like, okay, this game doesn't matter.
I'm just gonna say this. I remember when I said that I wasn't impressed by Baker Mayfield coming out, and I got ripped to shreds by some of the greatest minds of Dolphins Twitter, like hardcore, tore me up. And well, I'm gonna take a little victory lap on that one because Baker Mayfield is not proving to be anything special in this league. So that's just my little moment in the sunshine there. So anyway, go ahead, Mike. Tell me your key and your score.
So I think the only thing I've gotten from everybody else's picks is that from now on I'm going to call Juan Alabama. I'm just going to call him Alabama since he doesn't know where it is, which is literally touching Florida. Dude.
We're just going full on Cobra Kai here. Everybody has this crappy nickname now.
I'm just going to call you Alabama from now on. But I think the key for the Dolphins, I think we got to watch the passing game, regardless of if it's Josh Allen or, yes. Who's their backup? Barkley, right?
Yeah, Matt Barkley.
Barkley's not a great quarterback. He's not a good quarterback. But Stephon Diggs is still a good wide receiver that can make bad quarterbacks look decent. So I'm looking to our secondary to play a lot better than they did in the first game. So I really want to see them kind of shut that down because this is going to be one of the better receiving cores we play for the next couple of weeks. But I think it's on the defense as it always is. Just keep them low scoring. Bend, don't break. Keep that up. I'm looking for Tua to have a good game, and I'm going to go with 27-17 Dolphins win.
All right, so now it's my turn. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and give a quick shout out to my boy Efren Ramos. Worked out with him a long time on Fin Maniac, so good to see him on there. So anyway, my score for this game and my key for this game, honestly, it's just I think that Tua's going to have a really good game. I really do. I don't think that this is going to be the deciding factor in whether Miami picks a quarterback or not, because no way in any shape or form am I going to say, yeah, Miami needs to spend a first rounder on a quarterback. Forget that. Not doing that. But I will say that Tua needs to get aggressive right off the bat. He needs to be willing to take those shots, especially if some of the Buffalo Bills top defenders are out of this game. You have no excuse not to start taking some shots. Stop looking for the conservative play. Don't look for this little dump off. Don't just throw to the flat. even if the guy doesn't look open to you because you're not used to guys being a lot closer to the defender than they were in Alabama, you got to be willing to take that shot. And I hope that Fitzpatrick is on the telephone somewhere saying, take the shot. It's okay. So just because you're on the COVID list doesn't mean you're no longer alive. So get this guy aggressive right off the bat. And I think that the Dolphins can actually put up a lot of points. I'm going against my gut on this one, honestly. And I'm going to go ahead and pick Miami to win. And I'm going to have them winning 30-27. I think they're going to I think they're going to have to take at least 30 points if they want to beat Buffalo. And I think it's going to come down to a Jason Sanders field goal. And mind you, I'm going against my gut on this because I really don't want to be the one guy who picks Buffalo to win. So for the record, I am picking Miami to win 30-27. And if they want to win, Tua has to get aggressive. So that's
really quick.
Go
Lots
ahead.
of speculation going on Twitter that what's it called? That Diggs is sitting. I haven't seen like speculation on Allen hardcore, but a lot of on Diggs sitting.
Cool.
Yeah, there's also a rumor going around that Josh Allen is active, but will not.
I saw that one. Yeah. Cool.
So we'll go ahead and
there's also a rumor that I'll be eating tacos later, but we don't know yet.
Manny, the tacos are
focus on Jalen Hurts, Manny. Get out of here.
Focus on Carson Wentz being a baby and requesting a trade. All right, come on.
Listen. All these turnovers that happened to Hurts, he was trying to force the ball down the end, bro.
Now we're an Eagle podcast.
Let us close this out. All right. Listen, I hope you guys one day can live through a playoff journey, right?
Get him off the screen.
I hope one of you guys can feel it because I already have. I'm perfectly fine.
Manny, I honestly hope with all my heart and soul that the Eagles win and actually manage to if the Eagles win they win the NFC East, right?
No,
they're out.
No, they don't.
They're out. Yeah, if they win, the winner of Giants Cowboys wins the division.
Yes.
Okay,
Manny.
So go Cowboys.
Don't go Cowboys. Go Giants. I don't want the
Get off
Cowboys
my
to
screen. Get off my screen.
I do not want the Cowboys to win. I do not want my pastor to be bragging about this. If somehow the Cowboys make it with a crappy record like they do and the Dolphins get booted out, I do not want to hear it from him. But anyway, that's besides the point. So thank you all so much for joining us for this final regular season edition of Yard Prep. Hopefully, we will be able to have another one next week when the Dolphins are in the playoffs. I hope with everything that I have in me. So, and by the way, again, this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. There's still time to go on there right now. They'll match up to $100 on your deposit. You still have a chance to win big and maybe pick the over on Tua's fantasy points. Who knows? You might actually get to win some serious money there. Use the promo code 5, F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your deposit. So we will have new links fresh for you for our in-game stream. I will be there. Kai will be there. I believe Juan will be there. Hopefully Michael will be there. Alfredo, I don't know if you're going to be there.
Michael's coming for
Alfredo will not be there.
Alfredo will not be there. That's the bummer. Okay, how about post game? Are we gonna have you post game? I always have to.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Although today I'm watching a lot of football. I don't know how many games are gonna be at 4:00. So,
right.
I'll probably be on.
We need the cigar if they win. If they win, you have to be on with the cigar. Like what? Come on.
For sure.
All right. So thank you all once again so much for joining us. We will have fresh links for you on 5 Reasons YouTube. So go ahead and make sure that you're following us and subscribe, hit the like button, and also go ahead and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our uploads, okay? Because YouTube loves to screw that up. Anywho, once again,
thank you. All notifications, not some.
Yeah.
Hit the bell, all notifications.
There you go. So we will be having fresh links for you guys for our in-game stream, and then we'll have another fresh link for you for post-game. See you all until then.